In order to succeed like 99% of people don't do in trading, I have a simple solution for you. So, most people are too predictable in the market. Everyone understands where they enter, where they place their stop loss and their logic, and they repeat the same process over and over again. And their setup may work for a while, but then it stops working. Why? Because people are too predictable. If, for example, you only wait for a certain type of liquidity sweep and take the same type of market structure shift and entry in a fair value gap over and over in the same session, then eventually you're becoming too predictable and you're too stiff and too strict. For example, yesterday I took a long position in Euro USD in London session, and I've backtested that I wait for it to take out Asia high before I close the trade. But yesterday I saw on higher time frames that that's not that likely to happen. So I thought to myself, I'm up 4% currently in this trade. And what's more important, to reach more or to just close it and actually be satisfied and move on to the next? Because obviously my plan didn't tell me to close it, but I can use my brain as well. I can think logically. And you know what happened? It didn't take out Asia high and it went down to stop loss. So why am I telling you this? Because you're probably thinking like the majority of people in other areas of your life. So what makes you think that you're going to be different in trading? The way you do one thing is the way you're going to do everything. So, for example, you don't want to take the same entries as everyone else, but you have the same habits and lifestyle as everyone else. Me, for example, I started to quit listening to music entirely. I'm only listening to special type of instrumental beats when I'm focusing, but that's not giving me any dopamine. But I quit listening to music in general that gives me dopamine, like on Spotify, mainstream music, hits, EDM, pop, hip hop, whatever, that kind of music. I quit listening to that entirely because I don't want to program my brain for dopamine. And I don't watch that many reels either. Sometimes I like to watch reels, but most of the days I don't. Instead, I read books. And for a long time, I used to just listen to audiobooks, but that's not the same. You get the same information, yes, but you're not using your brain, developing your brain the same way. You're not training your brain the same way you train your muscles in the gym by listening to an audiobook you need to read. So that way, the same way as you want a computer that has quick processing power, you want the same for your mind. You want your mind to be quick as well. You don't want all these bugs in your mind and all these tabs being open that makes the process really slow. The same way in your computer. But if your brain is like thinking about a song, a melody you listened to a while ago, or some reel you watch, like everything is making your brain slower and the market is moving pretty fast. And recently I've even begun looking at lower time frames than 1 minute. I used to execute on 1 minute, but recently I'm starting to look at 15-second time frame as well, which is moving really fast. But why am I able to do this? I've never looked at a 15-second chart before, and it wouldn't make sense to me. But why am I certainly able to look at a 15-second chart and execute? Simply because I rewired my brain. I upgraded my brain so it's moving really fast. That's why I'm able to suddenly trade on 15-second charts and get more trades a week, better risk to reward, and overall the trades moving quicker. Because let me tell you a secret. Even your time frame is the same as everyone else's. So if you're using the same strategy, the same time frame, the same way of thinking as everyone else, you're gonna get the same result as everyone else. The algorithms, isn't even always looking at 1 minute. You can use 1 minute, but what I've seen and what I've noticed myself is that a lot of times I take a trade on 1 minute and I get in profit, maybe 2%, 2.5%, 3% sometimes, but then it reverses. It always happens. It reaches some level of internal liquidity, but then it reverses. So that tells me that I'm too slow. I try to catch too big moves and they often fail. But if you look at a lower time frame, guess what happens? It always works. It always reaches your TP, because if trading would just give you a large range every time, then it would be too easy for everyone to make money. But if you simply go on a slower time frame, like 15-second time frame, it almost always reaches the liquidity that you spot, and then it reverses. So it's like you have the range, the session low, the session high, and let's say we're in the middle here. So most people always want to go close to the session low or high, or even take it out, and then they take a trade and they reach for the opposite session. This works, but not every day. Maybe once a week. But what are you going to do all the other days? Are you just going to sit there? Or do you want to develop a strategy so you get more frequent setups? Because on the other days, you may be in the middle of the range, and if you go down to the 15-second time frame, you look for a break of structure or market structure shift there, and then you target some opposing liquidity, the market is almost always guaranteed to reach that opposite liquidity. So you get a 4 or 5 R trade, and it moves quick. It could give you this trade in 15 to 20 minutes and you've made 4 or 5 R and you're done for the day. While on the 1 minute, you may have to wait for 3 hours to get the same R. And most of the time it reverses, it always does. So I'm telling you this to tell you to, first, you have to basically stop doing all the unnecessary stuff that's basically slowing down your mind. Because after stopping something simple as stopping to listen to music, and I looked at the charts with a new point of view, because most of the time I just focused on my setup and I wasn't open to learn or to see new opportunities in the chart. So I was like, okay, so this day no one could have made money in the market. Like, how does that make sense? Do you really think that no one made money in the market that day just because you didn't find your setup? You have to be open. You have to look really deep and really deep analyze the chart and see, is there something I'm missing here? And when you focus on that, you suddenly see so many opportunities. It's like a light switch that suddenly you see so many opportunities that you didn't see before. It's like you were blind before and then you see it. Because most likely, and let me break this down simple for you so you know what to look for. Most likely you already have a bias a lot of the days. For example, if the price goes like this, takes out a high and it retraces, most of the time you have a bias that it's going to continue up. For example, you already know this, but you when you look at it, you think that, yeah, I know it's going to go up, but I'm not gonna get a good risk reward ratio. That's when you drop down to the 15-second and you look at an entry there and suddenly you get the good risk reward ratio. It's that simple. It's not hard. You just have to rewire your brain and think differently than anyone else. So if you're still watching this, if you had the patience to watch this without clicking another reel or another video, my challenge for you today is try to stop listening to music overall and just listen to a motivational speech or something else, but not music in itself, and try to read books and watch how your trading is going to change. And if you're interested in coaching with me or joining my Discord, the links are in the bio. You can join my Discord from there. I give live market analysis every single day, and I also have my Instagram there. So if you want to do a coaching session with me, get my strategy, understand how I look at the charts, what I'm looking for every single day, simple breakdown, which works for anyone, then just send me a DM on Instagram and we'll take it from there.